Now, the US Senate has unanimously condemned Vladimir Putin as a war criminal.
It comes while the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court has been gathering evidence of alleged war crimes committed by Russian forces, sparking speculation over whether or not the Russian president could be tried at The Hague.
Well, in the studio now to explain what charges could be brought against Vladimir Putin is Geoffrey Robertson QC. Very good to see you. Geoffrey Robertson is a human rights barrister and an author, and he was also involved in the prosecution of Chilean dictator Augusto Pinochet. So, my friend, you have a very long and distinguished history associated with this sort of thing.
I've been a war crimes judge. I presided over the court in Sierra Leone that the United Nations set up. And we've still got Charles Taylor, I think, in an English prison as a result of that. So gradually, and I was involved, obviously, in the court in The Hague, which put Karadzic and Mladic in prison. It took 20 years to get them. Yeah. And who knows what Vladimir Putin will look like in 30 years' time, when he could be like those old Nazis they're bringing to trial in Germany. He could be overthrown by a coup. And he could be traded like Milosevic.
But to people who would say, oh, he's 90 years of age, he's an old man, let it go. And people say this about crimes in Northern Ireland, they say it about Second World War crimes still. What is your view on that?
Well, I think his crimes are unforgivable and unforgettable. You can see them on television, burning buildings all around Ukrainian cities, women and children killed, old people. This is not a crime that can be forgiven. It is clearly, without any reasonable doubt, the crime of aggression, which means invading a sovereign country in a way which is a massive breach of the United Nations Charter, and that is done.
So just talk us through the whole process. I mean, we've heard the Senate in America unanimously saying that he's a war criminal. We've seen Dominic Raab here going over to assist with the prosecution at the International Criminal Court in The Hague. Will there be a long indictment sheet? I mean, it starts, as you say, with the invasion of a sovereign nation, but, things like targeting a maternity hospital.
It will be a very simple case. I mean, the British police this morning have asked Ukrainian refugees that we take to provide eyewitness accounts of crimes of bombing hospitals and so on. So the crime of aggression will be very easy. You just show the sort of photographs that have been on television, you use Putin's own statements against him, and you get the Ukrainian government to confirm that on the 24th of February they were invaded. End of story. We've got 3 million refugees. That's the consequence. So there's no difficulty for a prosecution for aggression. What are Putin's defenses? Well, self-defense is a guaranteed defense, but no one's suggesting that Ukraine was about to invade Russia. That would be ludicrous. So he doesn't have self-defense. He himself has said, I acted to stop genocide. But there was no genocide in Donbass. Genocide is destroying a race or religion. And
can he say, I can't be held personally responsible for this because it's my army, my generals, and they have, freedom to do what they want?
No, there is other crimes he can be charged with. And we have a doctrine called command responsibility. And he is the responsible commander. He doesn't have to know about the crimes, but once they're committed, he has to punish them, and he didn't. Now, there's another interesting defense. If I were his lawyer, and I hope he has a good lawyer if he comes to trial.
Do you?
Yes, I do, because that shows that there's justice, that he is being properly defended. I would use what is called the tu quoque defense. We always talk in Latin, you understand. And it means, I did it, but you did it too. Bush, Blair, and others in Iraq in 2003 were similarly invaded. But this is the catch. It doesn't work, because the law against aggression was only formulated and passed in 2017. So any invasion, and there were a lot before 2017, can't be prosecuted. But this one certainly can.
Mr. Robertson, we've no doubt, your authority on this subject and your experience on this subject. And we can all be quite emotional about this. You have to remain maybe a bit more distant and let the facts speak for themselves, which must be very, very hard to do. You know, as a human being, you will see evidence submitted to you that the rest of us won't see. You will hear stories. How emotionally draining is this?
Quite. I mean, in Sierra Leone, I had to look at evidence of Operation No Living Thing, when one faction would cut the hands off those who had voted in a UN referendum and would torture and kill and use 12-year-olds to kill their relatives, to kill the mayor of a village. And the photographs were, of course, horrific. So it is draining, but it's got to be done, because those who are demonized have to be given a fair trial.
I want to ask you, because you talk about, President Putin, being the ultimate one responsible for what's been going on, even if he isn't individually aware of the act as they happen. Do you see in this particular case that there could be other people, though, also being tried at perhaps the International Criminal Court? Do you see other people as being culpable? His facilitators, his enablers, and if so, who at the moment stands out for you?
We've got the Nazi precedents, and of course the generals were tried, the executioners, the firers of the shot, the Russians who shot down with a Buk missile, a plane from Malaysian Airlines carrying 300 people. Yes, of course, those individually responsible, even for obeying orders, if those orders were criminal, war crimes such as targeting a hospital or killing civilians that have been going on every day, they are guilty and can be jailed for life. We don't have the death penalty in international law.
What about these young Russian soldiers? Many of them conscripts, most of them lied to about what exactly they were up to, being asked to do the most unimaginable things. Do you feel sympathy? Does the law show them any leniency in these sorts of cases?
We had in Sierra Leone, for example, hundreds of boy soldiers who'd been brainwashed, in effect, to commit crimes. And there is an element of brainwashing, as you know, in the news that's allowed to percolate to Russians. So, yes, there is some leniency, some shown to them when they're put on trial. Of course, the wider question is the Russian people. And this was the question over the German people after the war. To what extent were they responsible? And it was a philosophical question. To an extent, the people are responsible if they elect, as the Russian people have, and elect to be quiet. Obviously not those who've spoken out.
That's fascinating that a people can be held responsible as well. But
philosophically, but not in law.
But Hitler blamed his own people on losing the war and basically assassinated so many in his last days. Is there another danger, whether it had been Hitler coming to trial or Putin going to trial, that these people can grandstand, these people can get centre stage? And how then, as a judge, or how as a prosecutor, do you prevent that or limit that?
Well, that was what Churchill was afraid of. He vetoed, he wouldn't appear for Britain in the Nuremberg trials because he feared that Hitler would use it as a soapbox. Now, he was replaced, of course, and the Labour government supported Nuremberg. And the Americans insisted that it go ahead. And you know why it went ahead?
Why?
Because it got the vote of the third ally, Joe Stalin, who loved trials, of course, so long as everyone was shot at the end of them.
Yes.
And so, miraculously, in a way, we got the Nuremberg judgment, which does condemn Putin without any doubt.
What are his chances of standing trial?
That's the good question, because at the moment there's no chance of a trial anytime soon. The reason, he's got a superpower vote on the Security Council.
What a nonsense.
And Russia, Russia preside over the Security Council at the moment, and they will veto any trial. But you never know. Putin could be replaced by a coup. He could be traded like Milosevic. The only reason we got Milosevic was because he lost power and the government wanted to end sanctions from the West.
Just
they
lastly,
sent him to trial.
I wanted to ask you what it's like to look into the eyes of a war criminal. I mean, you've been in the same room as Pinochet, Milosevic. I've been in the same room as many murderers doing criminal trials. It's amazing how ordinary they often look. Has that been your analysis?
Yes, there is the phrase, the banality of evil, that was used of Eichmann, the man who orchestrated the killing of 6 million Jews. And was put on trial in Israel. And looking into his eyes, one journalist said, this is the banality of evil. They look just like us. I've sat down.
And he always denied everything. And he believed it. You could tell he believed he was innocent of anything.
That's right.
Man who was responsible for the final solution, as it were. So Geoffrey Robertson, we wish we had more time to give to this subject.
To talk to you.
But it is a privilege to talk to you. Good luck in what you try to do to bring these people to justice. And thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Good to meet you.